Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, the show for fleet executives, HR leaders, and recruiting professionals. I'm your host, Ginger Craddock.
And I'm your host, Aaron Craddock. Each week we share actionable insights, market trends, and proven strategies to help you grow and thrive.
Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Ginger Craddock. Most fleets aren't struggling because they lack interest from drivers. They're feeling strain because the systems behind recruiting, development, and operations, they weren't designed for the volatility that we're operating in today. What worked 5 or 10 years ago, it doesn't always hold up when expectations change. Freight cycles have tightened. The margins for misalignment get smaller when this happens. In this episode, we're going to talk about where driver pipelines actually start to strain and what it looks like when a fleet intentionally designs for durability instead of just speed. I'm thrilled. My guest today is Amanda Worthen, Director of Driver Employment at Rail Transport. Rail is featured here as a fleet that has been willing to learn, adjust, and refine its approach by focusing on fit, preparation, and alignment across recruiting life cycles. Amanda, I appreciate you being here and being willing to have a thoughtful, systems-level conversation about what it really takes to build pipelines that hold up over time.
Thank you, Ginger, for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation.
It is an incredible conversation, I know from our prep, so I can't wait for our listeners to hear. So, Amanda, from your perspective, where do fleets often assume that their pipeline is struggling versus where strain actually begins to show up?
I would say that the lack of good education and preparation for new CDL holders. We see drivers coming in all the time as their first CDL driving job with expectations that just don't meet reality. I heard someone say recently that being an over-the-road truck driver or a regional truck driver, it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. And, I grew up, my dad was a truck driver, so I know what that means to be at home waiting for dad to come home, right? And so it's a choice that they have to make. It's a lifestyle that they have to make. Many drivers come into it thinking that it's the opposite. We have a very robust training program for those drivers that we work with at Rail. We send them out with a trainer for 26 days to make sure that they can experience what that actually feels like to be on the road, to have to do laundry at the terminal, or just get some downtime at a terminal, or have to spend time in a cab with a bunkmate or something like that. So we want to make sure that when they're out on the road, they know what that's going to be like, that they can do that job safely, effectively, efficiently, and do whatever we can to make sure that they're set up to be successful.
Amanda, that is so powerful in how your preparation unfolds in giving those drivers the opportunity to see what it feels like. I mean, my brain went there when I heard you describing that, because if you've not been a CDLA driver, to your point, you don't know what that looks like. And so to intentionally give that experience to new drivers, I can see how that reduces strain. That's incredible. What kind of feedback are you getting from your early drivers as they begin to experience what you guys are doing for them to help them understand the fit of the role of a professional truck driver?
I think they really appreciate the experience, especially, having a good trainer or a good mentor there with them. And it's not something like maybe other carriers where they're just sitting in the passenger seat and we're using their logbook. They are actually in the seat of the truck. If the truck is moving, the student is in the driver's seat and the trainer is sitting right there beside you. They are, if one's sleeping, they're both sleeping. If the student's driving, then the trainer is in the passenger seat, kind of helping them with what is it like to pull into a customer's yard and maybe they don't know where to go, or how to do the paperwork that they need to do, and how to communicate maybe some safety items that they need to get back to safety, or with mechanicals, anything like that. They have that person with them. We kind of use the 19 to 26 days. Some people catch on quicker, and so it could be a little bit less time. but we do give them that grace and the opportunity to learn with somebody right there beside them. And the response that we're getting is they are so appreciative that somebody is actually there that they can talk to. They can show them how to get in and out of our terminal facilities and how to best work their hours to get the most out of their time. So we've seen it very positively.
Wow. And when you reduce that strain and that tension of the unknown, I can see how that builds confidence. So that's a really clear picture of what you're doing for new drivers. Thinking about the more experienced drivers, what are some of the things that you're doing when you onboard the more experienced drivers that help orient them to rail and kind of reduce strain on the front end, even for the more experienced drivers?
So for the experienced drivers, we bring them into our local terminals in order to put them through orientation. And they're going through orientation with the students as well. They're going to go out and they're going to do the road test and they're going to be evaluated on their skills and all of that. If there's something that we see that's lacking, we don't go, oh, nope, you didn't pass. See ya. Thanks. Come again. Right. We have those trainers there on site that can maybe help them, give them a little bit of guidance, maybe tweak something if it can take, a few hours to help them work on. So I think we give them that grace as well to be able to kind of come in. And if they feel like they need a little helping hand, then they can. And then we also have, we have top rate operations people that work with us, especially those that are going to be in the flatbed divisions that we have. Just the amount of support that I heard that we offer our flatbed drivers, I was blown away. There's 24/7 support. They can call anytime that they feel like they need a help or they feel maybe unsafe or they didn't strap something correctly. We'll have them take pictures of it and can give them guidance. And so just that level of constant support, not feeling like they're alone, I think is tremendous.
That's incredible. And two things that I hear in that support is there's opportunity to maybe correct some bad habits potentially that an experienced
Absolutely.
driver has maybe developed over time. I heard you really when you said, if they fail a section, we're there to support, help coach, help resolve that. That's beautiful. And then in your example with the flatbed, I thought back to what you said about your dad was a professional driver and what it looked like to come home. I'm a daddy's girl. And so when I think about my dad or a family member being out on the road or being at risk, what that means to my heart that they have the support they need, that's incredible. Like,
absolutely.
That's next level. So I don't know if you're a daddy's girl like me, but knowing that your daddy is taken care of when he's away.
Yeah.
And then as a wife too, and a mom, like for my significant relationships, that really matters. So
it does. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like I told you, my dad was a truck driver, and those in the South will remember Hurricane Hugo back in, I think it was 88 or 89. My dad was a truck driver. He was an over-the-road truck driver at that time, and was trying to get home, and a tree fell on his truck, and he was having to kind of face the storm in his cab. And I was thinking about how rail, if you don't feel safe, then they tell you, don't get in the truck. You kind of determine if you're going to get in that truck or not. And so we really listen to the drivers. If they say, I don't feel safe to drive, then that's taken very seriously. As I said, safety is our cornerstone value at Rail. It is lived, breathed every single day. And I don't think that that's something that my dad probably had the encouragement to say. I don't feel safe driving. I would prefer to bunker down somewhere safe instead of having to drive this cab. So I really, really appreciate that about Rail and what you said. Like, that really stuck home with me when I was thinking about, my dad in that situation and how it would have been very different if he was at Rail.
That's incredible. I think in our industry, top of mind when we're having conversations about safety is the safety from the fleet side of the drivers for the scores and all the things that go with that. But that thoughtful intention and that safety to be able for the driver to say, hey, I don't feel safe. Here's what I need to be safe in this situation.
Absolutely.
And your connection back to Hurricane Hugo, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you
it
for
made me
trusting
tear up
us
thinking
with
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for trusting us with that. That's a powerful illustration of what you guys are doing and why it matters.
Mm-hmm.
So what did rail begin to approach differently when the industry norm wasn't delivering the outcomes that you guys wanted?
Something that I love about rail is we try to work with as many drivers as possible. We've created things like our relaunch program, where we can work with drivers that maybe have had their CDL and maybe in the past 10 years or so they've had experience, but maybe went into a different career after COVID, or it hasn't been in the truck with that recent experience. Every carrier wants that. I need a year within the past 3, or I want 6 in the past, whatever that is. We will take a look at those drivers and we'll work with them through our relaunch program. We utilize the training program that's already set up, and we create, personalized training for them, whether that be, do they need just a week or so of training with a trainer, or do they need a few more days? But we get them into orientation. We evaluate what those skills are, and we're getting them set up with that trainer so they can get them back up to speed. We also continue to work on our well-oiled recruiting machine. We're always looking for ways to remove roadblocks from our process. We're going to patch the holes where we have delays. I hear it a lot of times from Tim. It's a yes until it's a no, right? And so we're going to engage with them. We're going to move quickly, and we're going to make sure that they know that they have a home at rail until something comes up and we just can't go any further. But those are 2 ways that we're kind of working towards that. How can we be durable? How can we get to more drivers?
That's incredible. And what I'm hearing from the relaunch program, the students, the seasoned, experienced drivers, what I'm hearing from each of these examples is how you guys have built in the ability to customize the need of the driver to be able to bring them on at
Absolutely.
rail in a healthy, sustainable, durable way.
Yes, and make sure that they're set up for success. From a recruiter's perspective, not always the best, right? Because we can't have set processes, or it can be difficult if we can work with everybody. So that's a little challenging, but so rewarding. Like I said, when you look at a driver that came through COVID and maybe stepped out of it for a year or 2 and now wants to come back, a lot of carriers would just say no. But we can work with them, and we can try to find a home for them, and make sure that their skills are up to par, and make sure that they're going to be a good, safe driver, and they end up being fabulous for rail. So it's a win-win.
Now, a quick note from our sponsor. Hiring CDL drivers isn't about more leads, it's about better ones. That's why serious carriers partner with Hire Truckers by Trucking Clicks. We don't sell ads. We bring clear strategy, straight talk, and a relentless focus on quality drivers. Even in a tough market, our clients see improved performance month over month by optimizing smarter and making every hiring dollar work harder. For honest insight, sharper targeting, and results you can trust, visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816. Hire Truckers by Trucking Clicks. Clarity, courage, results.
And I appreciate you, this intention towards the best fit for the driver and the preparation for the driver throughout the entire recruiting cycle. I appreciate that you've touched on some of that. Adapting to the need of the driver can feel a little bit potentially painful for the recruiters who are trying to move them maybe through the pipeline quickly.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you do internally? I love your awareness that recruiters may feel pain here. What are some of the things that you do to support your recruiters in this way?
So making sure that everybody has a clear understanding of kind of where the guardrails are. But as you said, it can be a painful process for the recruiters. A lot of times you work through getting them to orientation and get them in the door, and then something at other carriers might happen, and now all of that work is gone because they've left orientation because it wasn't what you sold them, right? Rail puts a lot of effort into making sure that the recruiter is setting clear expectations from that very first phone call. We're not in the business of selling unrealistic expectations or trying to sell them something that just simply isn't true. So something that we've put in place is we started having our recruiters do an integrity worksheet so that the recruiters can review with the driver prior to them coming to orientation. This is what we reviewed, right? We've talked about the fleet. We've talked about the pay. We've talked about what equipment you can expect. What are your expectations and what is Rail's expectations of you? And we want to make sure that that driver fully understands what they're signing up for before they even get there. So it's not a he said, she said, my recruiter said this, I didn't. She said she mentioned a sign-on bonus. We're like, no, we didn't. We reviewed that with you. So that really cuts down on the driver having a different story when they get to orientation and causing that confusion that can cause orientation teams a headache and, loss of maybe funds to get the driver there. So travel costs and hotel costs and all that stuff. It really cuts down a lot of that. But I think it also kind of speaks to the driver that, we want to make sure you understand what we said, and we want to make sure that we understood what you needed, and we're going to make that good fit.
The use of the language of the integrity worksheet, and that it gives the driver the safety and security that he or she has heard exactly what Rail is offering, but also the support. I can see how that would be really supportive to the recruiters as well, because things in communication can get missed. But by going through that integrity worksheet, I can see how that would significantly reduce that risk, which not only supports the driver, but supports the recruiter for better outcomes.
Absolutely.
That's excellent. That is outstanding. Yeah. So the integrity worksheet, it kind of illustrates that there's shared ownership between the driver and the recruiting. When I look at alignment, I want to kind of build upon that. Let's talk about alignment, not just between the driver and recruiting, but let's talk about alignment around ownership across the departments like recruiting, training, safety, and operations. What does that shared ownership across departments look like?
For me, and I think for everybody at Rail, the key is going to be consistent communication. In Marshfield, Wisconsin, where Rail is, headquartered, the recruiting team and the operations team and safety, they're all sitting close together and they're all in constant communication. There's daily check-ins. There could be weekly check-ins, monthly check-ins, but all of those departments are talking together, and we each kind of know what we might be struggling with or what we're dealing with when it comes to maybe a certain applicant, but we're all staying, kind of aware and on the same page. I think it's good to kind of know where you shine and maybe stay in your lane. I think a lot of times, there can be a rub between recruiting and orientation or recruiting and safety. And then when that rub starts, the communication generally stops. Then you have to kind of get past that and each know that you're working for the betterment of the company. You're working in Rail's best interest, right? Everybody's working to be safety top of mind and work towards that cornerstone value that Rail has. But we're each doing our part. I personally would not be a good safety person because I think the best of everybody and I want to see the good in everybody. And I would definitely not be good at operations, but I think you let those people shine and let them bring their expertise and just find a way that you can work together and stay in good communication. That's going to be the key for best alignment at Rail.
I love that imagery of letting each individual shine in what they bring to the table. And also what I hear and what you shared is alignment isn't a meeting one and done where we've communicated information. But what I heard is the strategic multiple meetings across departments that help you guys create and understand what the shared expectation is.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to go, if you don't mind, go a little bit deeper in kind of what comes to my mind is sometimes we can get meeting fatigue, but if meetings are done right and they're strategic, they can genuinely create that shared expectation, that sense of teamwork. How do you guard against meeting fatigue and having effective meetings that create this cohesiveness that you guys have built in for durability at Rail?
I mean, that's a little bit of a hard question. I came from a company that was meeting fatigue, just a meeting to have a meeting, right? And that can be very stressful, especially when you look at your calendar and you're like, I have all these meetings, and when am I going to get my job done? It's definitely top of mind at Rail. I think that I've been a part of meetings that we've all gotten together, and it's like, okay, what are the issues? And we don't have any. And that's great. But that means that it doesn't mean that when we hang up, we're not going to, be on a group email where maybe something has just now come up and now we're all addressing it. And so I think it's addressing it in real time. It's not keeping them for that maybe one time where you meet on a monthly meeting with orientation and then you're just going to kind of just spout out all the issues that you have, right? And just dump it at their feet. But we are in constant communication with orientation leaders, safety leaders, operations. When I started at Rail, kind of put together a meeting for operations where we can talk about what the openings are. And it doesn't feel like it's a push and pull kind of conversation. Everybody's bringing something to the table and everybody's kind of getting what they need out of it. And from a lot of those meetings, we've built, tools that can be very helpful for all sides. And so we've worked on that. But I just think it's addressing it in the time that it's happening. Don't kind of leave it for a big meeting so that it seems like a daunting task. A lot of times we just have a meeting to say hi because there are no issues, and that's good too.
Well, and that builds trust and relationship in the times where there aren't immediate issues, but also that relationship piece when there aren't issues is creating that sense of safety that I hear in the difficult conversations. Then when things do surface, because I heard what you said, when difficult things, it's not a he, she, we blame, but like collaboratively, how do we solve? And it takes both ends of the spectrum. That's excellent, Amanda. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's incredible.
Thank
and
you.
So that's leadership. Man, I love leadership, team development, and it's not buzzwords and slogans. Like, it's the real work in the trenches. And I told our audience, this is going to be like nuts and bolts, like operationally what these things can look like at scale, these details. So you're doing a great job of helping us see that picture at Rail, Amanda. So you're welcome. Speaking of leadership, what do leaders tend to underestimate about how recruiting systems operate day to day?
I think executives often miss and underestimate recruiters in the recruiting by lining it up almost like an assembly line. You got the leads, you got the apps, you talk to the drivers, you're going to get them in, right? Get them in the door, get them to orientation, move them to the next step. All right, who's coming up next week? That can promote that feeling of I'm just a number at those types of trucking companies. You are a number on a recruiter's goal sheet that week. And that takes the human side away from recruiting. And I'm not a fan of that type of recruiting cycle. Here at Rail, we know that we have goals to reach, of course, just like every other company. But every single phone call that a recruiter has with a driver is an opportunity to find how Rail and that driver can partner, where we can offer them a driving job that they want, that's going to be safe, and they know that they're coming on to a reliable carrier that they can partner with. That's our goal at the end of the day. So I think executives just sometimes miss the forest for the trees. It's like we have to have the numbers, we have to have them come in, but if we get down to the human side of it, just make sure they're being treated like a number. They have that good experience, and it's all about the driver experience, in my opinion. When the recruiter gets them on the phone, they're building those relationships, and that's what's bringing them in the door. Not the fact that we called them 17 times, right, to meet a goal or something on a sheet. So I think that's what it is for me from a leadership perspective. Keep the human side in recruiting.
Keep the human side in recruiting. And you've beautifully illustrated that from the new driver, the experienced driver, the driver that's re-entering the workforce, how you support your recruiters in this focus, and then how you communicate departmentally across teams. Like, I can see the human side that you have painted the picture so well with, Amanda.
Thank you.
So I have a follow-up question for you. What do you enjoy most about I don't think this is something that you were taught. I think you were intuitively this way. What is it that really sets your heart on fire and gives you passion for what you do that is related to the human side of trucking? And I think this translates, knowing you, I think this translates across not just your work, but I think this translates across just literally who you are as a human being.
Oh, thank you. For me, it's that joy that you can either hear or see from a driver when they're sitting in orientation or they've offered a job or you kind of give them exactly what they've been looking for. That excites me. And I think I also step outside of it being like for me, for drivers, but I also see that when I'm talking about uplifting the recruiters that I work with, finding whether it be men or women to uplift into supervisor roles. You know, I started off processing paper applications at Cardinal. I had no experience. I just knew that my dad was a truck driver. That was all that I knew. But somebody saw a spark in me and got me involved in advertising and then got me involved in, you know, working with a VP of safety and in recruiting to talk about budgets and how to hire somebody. And so that's kind of where I started. Somebody saw a spark in me. And I love to be able to kind of push that forward. I've worked with several women in the industry to kind of move up to supervisor roles and manager roles and kind of taking on the next step of their career. And that excites me. It makes me really happy. And to be able to help them do that for drivers. Man, that's what makes me get up every day and do this. It makes me smile.
100%. 100%. And I still see that spark in you. And that's why leadership wise, the language that I use is we have opportunity to expand the mountaintop with our leadership. And we can bring as many people as possible with us. It's not a competition in that kid game of king of the mountain where to get to the top, you got to knock somebody else off. No. It is, we can expand the mountaintop. And that spark that is in you, that others brought you along and expanded your capacity, your ability, your skills. You're now doing that for drivers and the other department leaders and the recruiters. That's just incredible, Amanda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so as we wrap up, when you step back, what tends to matter most when building pipelines that actually hold over time?
So I'm going to go back to the people. You know, I love my people. I think you hear all the time that you're talking about leads and pipelines. We don't have enough leads. We don't have enough leads. I think the leads are there. You need to go back and look at your process. Where does your boat have holes? Where are you losing leads? Or maybe an old process that's in place. Maybe you're a new leader in the department, or maybe you're a new leader to the carrier. Have you done a complete audit of your driver journey? Are you looking at all of your phone numbers? Are they all working? Are they going to dead space? Are you looking at old drip marketing campaigns? Like, all of those are potential holes that you could be leaking leads, because we're not seeing a shortage of leads coming in, but we are seeing a kind of a shortage of, are we working them correctly? Are we getting to them fast enough? That kind of thing. So for me, it would go back to people. Is your process set up correctly? Do you have your people trained correctly? And are you really kind of attacking those leads that are coming in?
Wow. If our listeners see that there's holes in their pipeline or in communication across departments, you could take that action list right there at the end and know where to start. Thank you for the practical insights that you've shared, Amanda. Any closing thing that you would like to share that, hey, if you're in trucking, I want you to remember this?
Just keep working hard at it. I think if you're a driver and you're maybe new into your career, think about yourself as a professional truck driver and really take ownership of that. I think a lot of times what we see in the recruiting space, and maybe not a lot of drivers know this, but we're looking at how many jobs have you been at. If you're getting up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 jobs in the last 3 years, that's a really hard sell for us as a recruiter to kind of say, is that person going to stay? So if I'm speaking to a driver, I would say the grass isn't always going to be greener somewhere else. if you're having some difficult times, try to stick to it. Give it 6 months, right? And just know that matters to us in recruiting, what we're looking at, those number of jobs and making sure that you can stay. From just a recruiter standpoint, just never accept status quo. Like I said, always be looking at your process. If something that has changed, did it break something that you had no clue was even out there? And always be asking questions. Stay inquisitive and just keep working at it, because you're making a difference. And for me, like, making a difference in a person's life is probably the best kind of job that you can have. So do it with everything you got.
100%. And you're doing it with everything you've got. And it attracts people to you just like a radiant light. And we have opportunity to actually change this industry and change the world for good by being that light that I see in you, Amanda.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ginger.
You're welcome, Amanda. So what I appreciate about this conversation is how clearly it shows that durable pipelines, they don't happen by accident. They're designed through alignment, preparation, and leadership across departments. It's prioritizing clarity over speed. Amanda, thank you for sharing how rail has learned, adjusted, and built for durability. For our listeners, if your pipeline's feeling strained, it's worth asking not who's the problem, but where does the system need attention? I'm cheering for you. I know that you can build durability into your pipeline. Until next time, this is Ginger with the Hire Truckers Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Hire Truckers Podcast, the show for fleet executives, HR leaders, and recruiting professionals. I'm your host, Ginger Craddock.
And I'm your host, Aaron Craddock. Each week we share insights, trends, and strategies to help you grow and thrive. If you found value today, please share the show and leave a review. Until next time, keep building top-performing teams.